There's a peculiar kind of stillness in my kitchen at 6:47 a.m. A silence so thick it feels like it's pressing against my skin. I'm standing here, Lydia, 28 years old, barefoot on the cold tile, watching the coffee maker sputter its last drops into a mug that's been mine since college. Chipped on the rim, a faded sunflower design barely clinging to the ceramic. The clock on the wall ticks with a rhythm that feels like a heartbeat, steady and indifferent, while outside, the suburban dawn creeps in through the blinds, painting slivers of gray light across the counter. My phone sits there, screen dark, no new messages, no missed calls, just a string of unanswered texts I sent to Fraser last night. Home soon. I'd typed and then hours later, miss you. No reply. That's the new normal. Fraser, my husband of 4 years, is 27, an engineer with a mind sharper than the blueprints he pores over day and night. He's out there somewhere right now, probably already at the office or on a site, hard hat on, lost in calculations and deadlines. I used to love watching him work, the way his brow would furrow in concentration, how he'd explain complex structures to me like they were poetry. Back then, our mornings were laughter over burnt toast, stolen kisses before he rushed out the door. Now, if we speak at all, it's a hurried exchange over cereal, him muttering about a project, me nodding like I'm not screaming inside for him to look at me, really look at me. Most nights, he's on conference calls until midnight, his voice a distant hum from the study while I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering when our life became this sterile, this empty. I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror every evening, after the dishes are done and the house is too quiet. My brown hair is pulled back, unremarkable, my eyes tired, searching for something I can't name. Where did she go? That woman who dreamed of painting murals on city walls, who laughed too loud at parties, who believed marriage would be an adventure. Now I'm invisible even to myself. The loneliness isn't just a feeling anymore. It's a weight, a cold ache that settles into my bones, making every step heavier. I've tried to fill the hours, gardening, binge-watching shows I don't care about, but nothing sticks. Nothing makes me feel alive. That's why I started going to the local art class down at the community center a few months ago. It was supposed to be a distraction, a way to smear some color into the gray of my days. But it's become something else entirely because of 3 men I met there, Lucian, Clive, and Gideon. They're not just classmates, they're a jolt to my system, a reminder of what it feels like to be seen. Lucian is the brooding type, all dark eyes and sharp wit, his paintings full of shadows and raw emotion that seem to pull you in. Clive is the joker, always quick with a grin and a quip, his sketches messy but full of life. And Gideon, he's the quiet one, thoughtful, with a gaze that feels like it sees right through to your soul, his work precise and hauntingly beautiful. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, I find myself counting down the hours until I can escape to that cramped, paint-splattered room at the community center, where their voices and laughter drown out the silence that haunts my home. My days, though they drag on in a loop of monotony. I wake up to an empty bed, the sheets on Fraser's side cold and untouched, a ghost of where he should be. I shuffle to the kitchen, pour that same bitter coffee, and sit at the table alone, scrolling through social media. I see posts of couples on vacation, holding hands, laughing under golden sunsets, and it's like a knife twisting in my chest. I wonder if Fraser and I will ever be that again, or if we've lost it for good. The emptiness gnaws at me, a hollow space that grows bigger with every unanswered text, every night I eat dinner alone. I remember one evening a few weeks back when I thought I could change things. I spent hours planning a romantic dinner, something to pull Fraser back to me, even for just a night. I cooked his favorite roasted chicken with rosemary, mashed potatoes, the works. I set the table with candles, dimmed the lights, even put on a dress I hadn't worn in years. I texted him, "Dinner at 7, can't wait to see you." My heart was fluttering with hope as I waited, but at 6:55 my phone buzzed with his message. Emergency project came up. Won't make it, sorry. That word, sorry, it felt so small, so inadequate against the ache building inside me. I stood there, staring at the food going cold, the candles flickering uselessly, and then I just snapped. I grabbed the plates, the chicken, the potatoes, all of it, and dumped it into the trash. The clatter of porcelain against the bin echoed through the silent house, louder than my own ragged breathing. I sank to the floor, the cold tile against my knees, and let the tears come. That night, I realized something had to give. I couldn't keep living like this, a shadow in my own life. But then there's the art class, my sanctuary. It's not just about the painting anymore. It's about Lucian, Clive, and Gideon. They've started to fill the void Fraser left behind, piece by piece. I can still feel the warmth from one particular evening at the community center last week. We were all crowded around a shared easel, working on a collaborative piece, and Lucien reached over to hand me a paintbrush. His fingers brushed mine, just for a second, but it sent a jolt through me. A spark I had, and I'm standing at the threshold of room 12 at the Starlight Inn, the key trembling slightly in my hand as I push the door open. The air hits me first, a heavy mix of stale cigarette smoke and the artificial sweetness of cheap air freshener that does little to mask the decay. The dim light from a single bulb overhead casts long shadows across the cramped space, revealing a sagging bed with a faded floral comforter, a flickering TV perched on a chipped dresser, and a cracked mirror hanging crookedly on the wall, reflecting fragments of the room like a broken puzzle. I hesitate for a moment, my heart thudding in my chest, but then I hear Lucien's low chuckle from inside, followed by Clive's exaggerated groan about something trivial, and it pulls me in. I step over the threshold, the worn carpet rough under my sneakers, and close the door behind me with a soft click. They're already here, Lucien sprawled in a rickety chair by the window, his dark eyes glinting with mischief. Clive perched on the edge of the bed, cracking open a can of beer with a grin, and Gideon leaning against the wall, his quiet intensity almost palpable as he watches me with that piercing gaze of his. "Lydia, you made it," Clive says, tossing me a warm can of beer from a six-pack on the nightstand. I catch it, the metal slick with condensation, and force a smile as I settle on the corner of the bed, the springs creaking under my weight. My nerves are buzzing, but their casual banter wraps around me like a blanket, easing the tension in my shoulders. We start talking about art at first. Clive does a terrible impression of our instructor's nasal critique, and I can't help but laugh, the sound spilling out of me in a way it hasn't in weeks. Lucien jumps in with a sarcastic quip about abstract expressionism being just fancy splatters. And even Gideon cracks a rare smile, his voice soft as he argues that every stroke has meaning if you look close enough. The beer warms in my hand as the conversation drifts from art to life, the room growing smaller somehow, the air thicker with every shared story. We talk about dreams we've abandoned, places we've never been but ache to see. I'm halfway through my second can when Lucien's tone shifts, his voice dropping as he tells us about a girl he loved once, someone who left him with a scar he can't paint over no matter how many canvases he fills. His words hang heavy, and I see a flicker of pain in his eyes before he masks it with a smirk. Gideon speaks up next, his words measured, admitting how he's always felt like he's on the outside looking in, craving a connection he's never quite found. I'm caught off guard by how raw it feels, how their vulnerability pulls at something deep inside me. And then it's my turn, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. I tell them how invisible I feel at home, how Fraser's absence has carved a hollow space in me that I don't know how to fill. My voice cracks a little, and I stare at the beer can, unable to meet their eyes, but I feel their attention on me, heavy and warm. The atmosphere shifts after that, charged with something I can't quite name at first, a mix of vulnerability and unspoken desire that hums beneath our words. The laughter comes easier now, but it's laced with something else, a tension that builds with every glance, every accidental brush of a hand. I don't know who suggests it, or if it's even spoken aloud, but there's a moment where we all just agree. It's unspoken, yet clear as day, a mutual understanding that we're crossing a line, and we're all okay with it. My heart races as boundaries I never thought I'd cross dissolve in the heat of the moment. It's thrilling, intoxicating the way their touches, tentative at first, then bolder, make me feel seen in a way I haven't in years. Whispers and laughter mingle in the dim light, and for a few stolen hours I forget Fraser, forget the cold tile of my kitchen, forget the weight of my loneliness. Their attention, it's 3 a.m., when I finally pull into the driveway, a car engine ticking as it cools in the quiet night. My hands are still shaky as I grip the steering wheel for a moment longer, trying to steady my breath before I face the reality waiting inside. The street is dead silent, not even a cricket chirping, just the faint hum of a distant streetlight casting an eerie glow over our little suburban house. I slip out of the car, closing the door with a muted thud, and creep toward the front door like a thief in my own life. My heart is hammering so loud I'm sure it'll wake the neighbors as I fumble with my keys, the metal cold against my sweaty palm. I ease the door open, wincing at the faint creak of the hinges, and step inside, holding my breath as I listen for any sign of Fraser. The house is a tomb of silence, not a single sound to betray whether he's awake or asleep. I glance toward the hallway leading to our bedroom, my eyes straining in the dark, but there's nothing, just shadows and stillness. Then I notice it, the tiny green glow of the doorcam light above the entryway, blinking steadily like an unblinking eye. My stomach twists. I'd forgotten about that stupid camera, the one Fraser insisted on installing last year for security. It's recording everything, time-stamping my betrayal in cold, digital clarity. I duck my head and hurry past it, feeling its gaze on my back like a silent accusation. I make it to the bathroom without turning on any lights, navigating by the faint moonlight spilling through the window. The mirror reflects a stranger, my hair a tangled mess, my eyes wild and glassy, my lips still flushed from the night I can't scrub out of my mind. I turn on the faucet, the water hissing as it hits the sink, and splash my face over and over, the icy shock doing little to calm the heat in my chest. I grab a washcloth and scrub at my skin, harder than I need to, as if I can erase every trace of where I've been, every touch, every whispered word. My reflection stares back, accusing, and I have to look away, drying my face with trembling hands. I slip into bed a few minutes later, the sheets cold against my skin, and lie there staring at the ceiling, waiting for the guilt to drown me. It doesn't, not yet, but I know it's coming. The next few days I play the part of the perfect wife, or at least I try to. I wake up early, make coffee, leave a note for Fraser on the counter with a little heart doodled next to my name, as if that can cover up the cracks. I smile when he comes home, ask about his day, laugh at the right moments, but it's all hollow, a performance I'm barely pulling off. He doesn't seem to notice at first, too buried in his work, but I feel it creeping in, paranoia, sharp and relentless, gnawing at the edges of my mind. Every time he looks at me, I wonder if he knows, if he can see the truth written on my face. Every time my phone buzzes, I flinch, half expecting a message from Lucian or Clive or Gideon, even though I told them we can't talk outside of class. I'm unraveling, and I can't stop it. It's Thursday evening when the first real crack appears. I'm in the kitchen, stirring a pot of spaghetti sauce, the smell of garlic and tomatoes filling the air as I try to focus on something normal, something safe. Fraser is at the dining table, hunched over his phone, his brow furrowed in that way it gets when he's puzzled by something. I glance over, my spoon pausing mid-stir, and see his thumbs scrolling through what looks like a banking app. My chest tightens, but I force myself to keep moving, to act like everything's fine. Then he mutters under his breath, just loud enough for me to hear, "What's this charge for $1.45? Starlight in? When was this?" My stomach drops like I've stepped off a cliff. The spoon I'm standing in the kitchen, the spoon frozen in my hand, the steam from the spaghetti sauce curling up into the air like a ghost. Fraser's words hang there, heavy and sharp, slicing through the fragile pretense I've been clinging to. My mind races, scrambling for an excuse, a lie, anything to deflect the question about the starlight in charge he just found. But before I can even open my mouth, he looks up from his phone, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity I haven't seen in months. There's no escaping it now. I feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me, a suffocating force that makes my chest ache as I realize this is it, the moment everything unravels. He sets the phone down slowly, deliberately, on the dining table, the soft clink of it against the wood sounding louder than it should in the tense silence. "Lydia," he says, his voice low, controlled, but there's an undercurrent of something raw, something dangerous. "What's this about? Starlight in, $1.45, last week. Explain." My throat tightens, and I turn off the burner with a shaky hand, the sizzle of the sauce fading into nothingness as I struggle to find my voice. I can't look at him, not yet, so I stare at the pot, at the red smears of sauce clinging to the sides like bloodstains. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it, a frantic drumbeat echoing in the quiet kitchen. We move to the living room, almost instinctively, as if the kitchen can't hold the weight of what's coming. The dim light from the single lamp casts harsh shadows across his face as he sits on the edge of the couch, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tight. I stand a few feet away, near the armchair, unable to sit, unable to settle, my legs trembling beneath me. I see the tension in his body, the way his jaw clenches so hard I can almost hear his teeth grinding, the way his eyes, those hazel eyes I used to lose myself in, are now filled with a pain so deep it cuts me to the core. "Tell me the truth," he says, his voice cracking on the last word, a fracture in his usual stoic armor. "Do you still love me, Lydia? Or is there something, someone else?" That question hits me like a punch, stealing the air from my lungs. My heart races faster, a wild, erratic thing, as I weigh my options in a split second that feels like an eternity. I could lie, spin some story about a friend in need, a last-minute errand, anything to keep this fragile shell of our marriage intact for just a little longer. But I know he'd see through it. Fraser always could, even when I thought I was clever. Or I could confess, lay it all bare, and face the fallout, the wreckage of what I've done. My mind is a storm of memories, flashing images of happier times that make my chest ache with longing. I see us on our first date at that rundown carnival on the edge of town, laughing as we shared sticky cotton candy, the lights of the Ferris wheels spinning behind us. I remember the day we moved into this house, paint cans and boxes everywhere, how he lifted me over the threshold even though we were both exhausted, both covered in dust, and we collapsed on the bare floor, giggling like kids. Those moments feel so far away now, like they belong to someone else's life, not mine, not ours. I take a deep breath, the air shuddering in my lungs, and decide on honesty even though it terrifies me. My voice shakes as I start to speak, barely above a whisper at first. Fraser, I did something. I went to the Starlight Inn. I was there with Lucian, Clive, and Gideon, from the art class. His face doesn't change at first, just stays frozen, but I see the flicker of shock in his eyes, the way his hands tighten into fists. I rush on, the words spilling out like a dam breaking, desperate for him to understand, even if it's impossible. It wasn't planned, not really. I was so lonely, Fraser. You've been gone, not just physically, but in every way that matters. I felt like I was disappearing, and they saw me. I know that doesn't make it right. I know I've hurt you, and I hate myself for it. My voice breaks, tears burning at the corners of my eyes, but I don't stop. I can't. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. All I can do is tell you the truth now. The silence that follows is suffocating, a void that swallows every sound except the ragged rhythm of my own breathing. Fraser doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stares at me with an expression I can't fully read, part pain, part disbelief, part something colder, something final. Then slowly he stands, his movements stiff, like he's carrying a weight too heavy for his frame. I can't look at you right now, he says, his voice hollow, stripped of the warmth I used to cling to. I don't know who you are anymore, Lydia. Those words cut deeper than anything else, a blade straight to my heart, and I feel my knees buckle slightly, though I manage to stay upright. He turns away, walking toward the hallway, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood, and I'm left standing there, alone in the dim glow of the living room. The air thick with the wreckage of our life. Days bleed into weeks, and the house becomes a battlefield of silence. Fraser barely speaks to me now, his presence a ghost that haunts the spaces we once shared. I wake up to find his side of the bed empty, the sheets smoothed out as if he was never there. I hear him moving through the house sometimes, the soft clink of a coffee mug in the sink, the rustle of papers as he works late into the night, but we don't cross paths, not really. It's like we've become strangers living under the same roof, each of us tiptoeing around the other, afraid of what might happen if we collide. I notice his belongings starting to disappear, little by little. His favorite jacket no longer hangs by the door, his books vanish from the shelf, a stack of cardboard boxes begins to pile up in the corner of the garage. He's packing, preparing to leave, and I can't bring myself to ask when or where he's going. The tension is a living thing, wrapping around me like a vise, making every breath feel like a struggle. I move through the days on autopilot, washing dishes that don't need washing, staring out the window at a world that keeps turning while mine falls apart. One evening, I'm rummaging through a drawer in the kitchen, looking for a pen or something mundane, when my fingers brush against a slick piece of paper. I pull it out, and my breath catches in my throat. It's a photo from our honeymoon, taken on a beach in Florida, the sun setting behind us in a blaze of orange and pink. We're laughing, our arms wrapped around each other, sand clinging to our skin, our faces alight with a joy so pure it feels like a memory from another lifetime. I trace the edges of the photo with trembling fingers, the glossy surface cool against my skin, and suddenly the weight of everything crashes over me. I sink to the floor, the cold tile biting into my knees, and clutch the photo to my chest as sobs tear through me, raw and unstoppable. I cry for what we had, for what I've destroyed, for the love I took for granted until it was too late. The kitchen echoes with the sound of my grief, a hollow space that offers no comfort, no absolution. In the quiet moments after that breakdown, I think about my regrets, and they're not just about that night at the Starlight Inn. I regret not speaking up sooner, not telling Fraser how lonely I was, how much I needed him to see me. I regret letting the distance between us grow until it became a chasm I couldn't cross. I regret not fighting harder for us, for the future we could have had if only I had been brave enough to bridge the silence with honesty and love. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.